Hi there, Randy Green here, take 3. And for those of you just think you can listen to the last video, you'll get all the pointers there. You don't, because the pointers were in video 1 or podcast 1 and in podcast 2 and in this podcast, which will be the last one, because there are different levels of information that we are working our way through. And as always, I'm building this up in shorter videos so I can create the spiral information that we need to get to the point where we can say, okay, what was the idea of the podcast that Randy made? What was it that she wanted to discuss? And the whole point with discussion here is the implementation of future technologies, as well as future awareness and the ability to begin to ground the future, but not the future that is being presented to us from the parallel universal matrix and parallel earth and some of the enhanced humans there, but the future that is connected to the original solar system, which we have a possibility to access into because of the planetary activation cycle, which is now why humanity is being driven so hard financially, emotionally, psychologically, physically, what have you, in all sorts of ways that are pushing people into becoming more materialistic, to feel too bogged down, to feel worn out, to feel they can't rise up to the occasion one more time, to feel, oh, just give up, to just feel this is impossible. What can I do? How can I change anything? Go into this whole spiral of negative schemes of what can I do? I'm not good enough. What have you? And all of these kind of things. Well, I'm just pushing it the other way around and say, use the whole Project Blue Flower. Take one step at a time. Change your diet. Change how you exercise every day. Change how you see information. Learn to dive into different levels of information. Learn to detect what information is important and what is not. What do you need to know? What do you don't need to know? And I've been studying my entire life, so I've got all sorts of information networks in my brain I can tap into if I like. And some of them are just dormant now because I'm not using them, because they are no longer functional, but I can activate them if I'm looking into, for instance, today I looked a little bit into some of the newest sciences. They have been trying to figure out if they can isolate some of the genes that are connected with vasopressin, that goes with social structures and social dominance and aggression, and how we operate within social structures, and hamsters, because they're very similar to humans. And because I've studied all of that a long time ago, vasopressin and electrochemical processes and neural networks and social structures, and the whole discussion about eugenics, and the whole discussion, is it nurture or nature, and how do we actually operate? Can we say humans are just electrochemical beings? Are we just the product of our DNA or of our gene codes? Or are we actually also influenced by the surroundings due to epigenetics and all these kind of things? I already studied that. So for me, it's just kind of, and they come up with the conclusion, yeah, we're probably not as close to understanding how the human mind is put together, or how the different genes are coding the behavior and in these complex neural networks that the hamsters have, that affects their social networks and how they're interacting with each other, thinking that if they remove the vasopressin, well, then they would become more compliant, nice little hamsters, but actually they became more aggressive towards their own sex, which is unusual, because normally you're only towards what we could say, well, to some degree, males are always within their own sex. Females are typically not, because they are used to work within groups as they are nurturing together, and all these kind of things. So this is, I'm just kind of, when I read that one, it just ties into all of that. And then I just ask the question, and the usual thing, I'm just saying, yeah, humans always think they're so fucking clever that they got everything under control, because they always isolate things, and things that what they're coming to the conclusion is they think that, yeah, no, they thought that social behavior was part of a local part of the brain where it runs in networks, people. It runs in complex networks similar to quantum networks that are fired in specific sequences that goes with specific levels of electrochemical structures that fits this kind of gene, so that when it gets activated, it does not fire locally within one part of the brain that determines one set of behavior. No, it fires globally in the brain, so it affects many different levels of that behavior is created from, because it's created from the different levels of the brain. It's created from the limbic system, the emotional patterns we have. It's created from hippocampus, the memories we have that's connected to that kind of electrochemical structures. It is connected to the frontal lobe, so we all orchestra how we engineer our behavior so it's suitable for the narrative we have. So that goes with other levels of sense of self, and where sense of self located in the brain, etc., etc. So these are all complex structures, and nothing is that simple. We are not machines, which is what science needs. Again, ESP, could you please get on the stage? Because we are not electrochemical machines. And we do not work that way as humans, just to put it that way. So that's the education, so that you have got enough information base. Not that you are Jeopardy. If you ask me, if you want me to go on stage in Jeopardy and put in this, what is the chemical or the molecular design of vasopressin? And I don't know. Because I know how it works. How does it work effectively? Then I would have to study it. I would have to look it up to get that Jeopardy answers, because my brain does not work in that way. But it works enough so I have foundational subconscious understanding of what vasopressin is. It's a neurochemistry, or chemical compound. And if you ask me on top of my head, I think it's part of the breathing. I can't remember. So I would have to look that up. So I'm not this kind of smart girl that walks around being a kind of an encyclopedia with all sorts of information. I'm not a fucking Asperger or autism kind of person. I have a complex brain structure that is able to connect the different dots with the information I want to derive. So what was it, the information I wanted to derive when I read this article? What I looked for was, have you cracked the code of how to actively begin to map the different genomes within the electrochemical structures, and how much have you learned whether or not it's actively part of epigenetics or nurture? And they came to the conclusion that they still don't know enough. That was what I was looking for, not the specifics of it. So that's, again, the selection between different levels of information. What is the most important level of the information, and what is the information that leads to what you want to derive from what you're reading? But that's also how one of the brain processes is working. And that's also some of the issues we can have in a negative way when we are looking into, for instance, when we're reading about reptilians, what have you. So if you have a specific belief system and you already create a specific neural network of a specific set of information layers that goes with the understanding of what reptilians are, and it's not complex enough, it's not nuanced enough, and you don't have personal experiences, but everything that you know is what you have studied, your brain will connect what you have studied, but it will not have your personal experience of it. It will not have something to weigh it up against. It will just be a conglomerate of the information you have already been taught, but you won't have a practical understanding of it. Just to put it in context. Or you can say you can study some kind of ancient human race to everything that you can find out there, but all the information you find is always, there are gaps in all levels of information. So therefore, unless you can connect the dots by connecting to the collective level of information, that's kind of where you can use your expanded version of your mind field, which can be highly distorted and not really to be trusted. So therefore, you need to go to the planetary information system. That goes in density energies. It goes with the original consciousness structure and the original technologies. But there you will then get information that is not in alignment with, if I looked into the planetary information network and looked into some of the old recordings that are stored in the library about what we would call kind of original code systems that will lead to what we understand as vasopressin, as in kind of that's a neurochemical, and as well as an electrochemical, all depending on if it's in the brain or it's in the rest of the body. How does it actually work? Can I find that in the library? No, because it's a frequency DNA later engineered under the alien agenda. So if I needed to get what the components were of that one, I would have to go into some of the LPF2 or the regress races and their libraries. So that means I would have to go to the artificial fourth dimension and go into their libraries and what they have got of technologies there that are running their planetary alien inserted networks from where they control specific types of alien inserted technologies. And there I might be able to get, okay, what's the code layers of this? What is the function of that one? How have you engineered it? Why have you engineered it? What are the backdoor in that one? What is the original tie up to the original code systems? Why does it work that way in our brain? That could go with some of the programming. We're talking about the whole community setting, that we need to connect to the communities. So if we alter the vasopressin and we kind of change that one, would that then affect our neurological structure? So we no longer seek communities, but actually are going to fight each other so that we will kill each other, so that we become antagonistic powers towards each other to try and take each other out, and no longer operate as a group and as within peers, as within, this is my community, these are my people, and therefore I will take care of them. Can that be used in a negative way to re-engineer humanity to go up against each other? You see where I'm going with that one? So yeah, scientists are kind of, oh yeah, we need to know how the brain is working. Let's try and alter all the human genomes. Well, we're still working within mammals, but yeah, the mammal genome is the same as we are having. So if you alter something in an animal that's very close to the way we operate, don't you think they might ripple off because of the joint fields and the connectedness there are amongst all living life forms on this planet, that you will affect us as well? So if you're tampering too much with the hamsters and fuck them up, you are creating the ability to fuck off humans later down the line. So these are some of the implications that goes with sciences as well. I hope you're beginning to understand some of the implications of this when we're talking about, okay, I want to integrate the sciences of the future. Yes. Do we know enough how things work? No, we don't. Why don't we know enough how things work? Because we have a double brain. We have a frequency brain and we have a density brain. And we have not built the structural layers that goes with the transformative energy system inside this physicality. Is that possible? That is the good question. Technically, I would, when we talk about the electrochemical processes of the physical form, would that be able to uncode that one? Yeah, I might be able to uncode it in myself. But what would be the general purpose of this? Would it be something I could go out, create a resume and a kind of a job application and go out and say to some of these people that are working in these so-called trying to figure out what the TikToks are, or to the Stars Academy or what have you, and go in and say, yeah, I actually have some information here. I have derived in telepathic contact with some of the alien races that are controlling our planet. And by the way, the human form that we have now is re-engineered and was done 15,000 years ago. So I had to go to the alien libraries in the artificial fourth dimension that's connected to our solar system to get that gene code sequence and the original purpose of the social structures that are now engineered into our bio-DNA, which is then affected by the joint affectability that goes with both the biological imperative, the coding itself, but also the environment that we grow up in and the food we're eating and the people that we're around, because emotional fields affect each other. So if you're around loving, caring parents, then that genome might work in a specific way because the coding of it then becomes in a different frequency spectrum than if you grow up in hostile parents. So in a way, it's not just about the psychological things that are happening in your life. It's not just about what you're experiencing in your life. It's just as much all the subtle energies that are exchanged between humans, because we have this thing that's called horizontal merging, which the alien technology is using to a large degree when we talk about the different programs that they put into us and all the information that we're getting, so they can kind of remote control us. And they are asking us to look at things that kind of creates what we call regional induction programs that alters the brain frequencies, so that what you see, you will then begin to combine the information in your brain and neural networks in a specific way that will only fire within the spectrum of light, because that's what your brain thinks it needs, because it's built to register and transform the neurochemical patterns into what is being seen. So you kind of have the understanding of how to survive in the reality you're part of. That goes with also the spatial understanding, because what you're looking at defines the spatial features in your brain, what is necessary, what you can touch and feel, creates the spatial features in your brain. So you kind of know how to navigate around the space, which is, by the way, also controlled by alien technology. That's called the frequency spectrum. that is up in the ionosphere, and that controls our neurochemical patterns, as well as the core center of our DNA that allows us to only get the spatial features within this artificial reality, which, by the way, is controlled by alien technology due to either inserted alien crafts in the original networks or alien implants that goes with specific type of alien technology that runs specific type of oscillation technologies that vibrates our planet in a specific way, so it solidifies, so it secretes within the molecular structure, which then crystallizes and goes into creating specific groups of atoms that joins together within a specific network that is based into the quantum fields that are mainly composed of emptiness of the third cycle type of energy, so that even though the atoms technically should link up to the original fourth cycle and the original fifth cycle, it can't, because it's connected to networks that are situated back in the third cycle, and the technologies there, and these are operated entirely via the grays that some of you are actually seeing as crafts in the sky that are called jolts, and they are up there also altering the frequency spectrum when they need, they're doing this, that's why they're called jolts, so they can recalibrate and alter the ionosphere. And by the way, I forgot to say that the whole kind of blowing up of the atom bomb in 1949 or whatever it was, Project Argus, kind of destroyed our ionosphere as you tried to take down the frequency barrier, the old version of it. All you did was technically just allowing big holes from some of the races that came in the 50s to enter in. So you took away our protection sphere and instead opened up to some really shitty races, which of course, yeah, I get it. You got a lot of good stuff. You got a lot of alien technology and crafts and what have you, from where you now get all the technology that we're now using, and you didn't care what these crafts were and how they were towed into our system and were part of the old Pleiadian wars and were imbued with backdoor genetic linking to the Orion system. You see where I'm going? Right? So how, so the question is just going with that kind of, so how do we go with this? How do we go with this whole knowledge of taking us to the next level? And that's the pioneering work as well. Again, implementing knowledge, implementing sciences, change everything that we are, learning to adapt everything that we are into the new type of sciences, getting to the point where we can actively do that. Will it be in some kind of consciousness war in the future that those of us are trying to activate the original outpost on our planet during the planetary activation cycle, so that we at least can do what we came here to do and begin to activate some of the original technologies, and by that perhaps create a future within the outer domains? Or are we going to succumb to all of the other races that want this as their part? They are creating it, literally taking it over and chopping it up or towing it into the third cycle or whatever they're doing, so they can get what they need of spare parts for their systems, because that's what's happening right now. So how do we get people to get beyond that psychological weakness, which I feel from time to time, but I've learned techniques to deal with it, which I explain in the advanced clearing work classes, how to deal with these things, because 99% of the time is either insertions or energetic link up or energetic parasites or alien programming or something that's been put into me, which the moment I remove it, I get back to balance and I continue doing what I'm supposed to do. But if people don't know this and they just think, oh, I'm just having a bad day, well, then you will continuously have bad days from here on, because what's going on now in the planetary activation cycle will rest upon what we do about it. What we do about it. Because that's where we are now. Either we activate by our own means, by our own effort, so the planet can recognize us and we do what we need to do to work with the planet and what needs to be done to create a future here, or at least bridge back into the worlds that are less hostile, or whatever it takes to get to wherever we need to go. Or we succumb to whatever's going on around us and just follow the 15 years of oblivion and continue down that trajectory and just saying, yeah, what can I do? What can I do? Right? So the only thing that can be said is like Gandhi said, well, be the change you want to have in the world. If you want to change the world, It's not about escapism. It's not about you just floating away in daydreams of, oh, couldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool to see one of these TikTok up close, or to be able to draw it in? And that is, of course, the beginning point where you visualize that, oh, that could be cool. But do you have what it takes to get you there? Do you really have what it takes to get you there? I've just pointed out here what it takes. Are you ready to change your food and how you work with food completely? I have made courses about that. Are you ready to change everything that how your life is built up on a daily level, the routines you have to develop, the discipline you have to develop, the level of exercise that is necessary, taking care of yourself while you're also educating yourself, while you also have to work or go to work or create your own business or take care of family or what have you, or what do you need to do? Are you ready to do the psychological work it takes? Are you ready to do the progression work and learn to truly work with energy and the original technologies of our planet, which you will only get access to if you are quote unquote worthy? You have to vibrate on the correct level of information. You have to vibrate with the correct code systems. You have to have the correct type of genetics. How do you know if you have these genetics if you don't work to activate them? Nobody's going to do it for you. The planet will activate on different levels, and that is the window of opportunity we have. But if you don't catch these energies, then they will just subside and fade away, and Mother will herself, in all of her wisdom and in all of her engineering and in all of her code systems and everything, her original programs will then detect there are no original humans left on this planet. So now I can, in good conscience, close down, remove everything, and push it back into the original setting, the original configuration within the original worlds that it truly belongs to, due to the laws of the cycles and energetic and genetic affinity. So this is also what we are up against. So, and for me, just saying as it is, I'm okay with either way. I'm not bringing this information out there because I want it to go in some personal direction that I want this to happen, or because I can't bear the complete destruction of another solar system, because we're just one solar system in a long line of solar systems within this universal structure. And we just got to the last of it. So this is just, nothing new there has happened before, and I know the destiny of that and what will happen and whatever. But I'm this kind of person. I like to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, I've done every fucking thing I could do to make this happen. I have done to the extreme what I could do to make this happen. So that's how I'm wired. But I'm also aware that it's not my personal ambitions that are driving this. I'm just doing this because I can, and because it's, of course I need to do this, but I also need to do it in the right way. So I kind of feel it's an honorable, functional, purposeful way of doing it. So it has a purpose and a function, not just doing it because it needs to be done. It's not just about spitting out shitload of information. And if I had a group of people that came my way and say, oh, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, would I then be able to make classes of it and kind of create courses where people would be able to do this? And let me put it this way. I've been trying to do that for 7 years now. I have not succeeded yet. So there's still a lot of things in that equation that needs to be solved. And one of the things where it fell apart the last time is the gap between studying it and implementing it. Haven't cracked that one yet in the students. And that's probably because it's not my enigma to crack. That's yours. So therefore, I also turn into the whole psychological work. Okay, what do we then need to do to change the personality matrix? And as I worked my way through there, I discovered how many of you that has so severe traumas that once you begin to work with some of the really shitty layers on this planet, that will not be nice for any of you. And that will probably be a re-traumatization. And I have issues with that because I'm a psychotherapist. Not interested in putting people in harm's way. So that's one of the block stoppers as well, because one thing I know what I can deal with and what I've experienced and what I've been pushed through, that's me, that's my responsibility. But as a psychotherapist, you have a responsibility for the people, what you put them through, what you can put them through, and what you can ask of them to do and what you can expect of them to do. And there's a huge difference there. Technically, psychotherapy is all about making the psyche work well. So that's another point where I need to respect where people are and what they need to deal with. And if people are not ready to dig deep and are not ready to work with what they need to encounter to be able to do this work, then I can have all of the best intentions in the world, but it's up to people to get them there. And then we also have the implications of the counter forces and the alien technology and the entities and the energetic parasites and the distortion energies and the thousands of lives where things have gone wrong, and all of these deeper psychological structures and energetic structures, psychic energetic structures that are in the way. And if people are not ready to work with their everyday life psychological issues, how are they going to be ready to work with past lives and alien technology and wars? And you know where I'm going, right? So if you ask me, even though I keep doing it and I keep putting out and keep trying to find new ways and I'm doing new levels of discussion and I'm putting it out there to get people to ponder upon this, I know this task is probably bigger than anyone can ever embark on consciously and saying, oh yeah, I want to do this. So in many ways, giving this little speech here is as well as with I did with my take on Buddhism. This is just me one more time trying to say, okay, is it the time now? Are people ready now? Have we come to this point where this is the information that gets them started, that gets them to do this, that understands what they're up against, that it's not just about, oh yeah, I'm studying this and then not looking into what they have in their energy system, not looking around their family members to understand the family constellation they're part of, not looking psychologically into what they need to work with, just thinking, yeah, if I just study the alien races, I will be ready for this work. That's just one branch of it. There's just one branch of it. And many of these races that were talked about in the older material you find on the internet, they're not even here anymore. So if you connect to that, you connect to the old timelines in the artificial fourth that are now completely driven by grace. So that will not help you. That's just programs you wander into. You walk into virtual realities where these races are now holographic overlay entities that are connected to your DNA, or your original genetics, which will then link you up to some kind of machinery from where you think you're encountering things, but you're just being sucked into artificial timelines. So studying things today on the internet has ramifications now, because we are in the activation of our planet, and that means of humanity on a broad scale. So going back to where I began the first video, discredit witness to give shitload of information to bog people down so they don't know which leg to stand on. And create doubt. And create uncertainty. And if that doesn't help, well, then target the psychological structure. Go for their weaknesses. Go for where they have these inbuilt patterns in their emotional fields that will make them focus on things that they think is most important for them. That goes with the original programming under the old world order. That's typically where most gets taken out in the work I've been doing with people so far. We get through all of this understanding where you need to go, but then they get targeted on their personal emotional issues and what they feel is important for them. And that's where most bend off. Because this war they suddenly enter into, where everything they believe suddenly becomes unstable and something that is not easy to deal with, and suddenly affects everything that they believe to be the right way to live a human life. That's where most people bend off. That's where they just kind of bail out and say, yeah, not ready for that one. And if you ask me, would I, if I had been, let me put it this way, if I had not had that coding already from childhood on, and my childhood experiences and how I perceive reality and feeling so different, and learned to stand on my own 2 feet, and learned from very early on that I needed to learn these things. I needed to be part of this world. So I knew how it operated, but it was not my world. If I hadn't had that from childhood on, if I had aligned myself with this world and suddenly were to get back into the game, which I technically were born with a memory of. It was part of my dreams as well. I had different dreams that reminded me that this is not my world. This is not your world. You're not here to become part of this world. You're here to do something else. But people who don't have that, can we at all expect them to do this work? And that's why I'm here talking to those of you of the fifth cycle and those of you with the mission statement, because you should technically have a program that tells you the same. That tells you this world, learn how this world operates, learn how to be in it, learn how to be part of it to some degree, arrange yourself in a way so you can be functional, but it's not your world. You're not here to put up your tent. You're not here to build that fancy life where you have this grand success. You're here to be part of this world because you're part of the future that needs to be integrated. You are here to become part of the new sorts of humans that are being able to work with the original human technologies and the original human biology and the original human consciousness. And to get to the point where we can effectively, from the future, seed in the original solar system humans that are existing in other systems, technically just waiting to come back. That's the future group I'm talking about. We need humans that are exemplifying this, being this, acting this, living this, transforming the current bio-DNA so that it collectively can carry the energies of the original code system. At the same time, we also have the parallel universal matrix that are doing the same with their enhanced humans that are not from this solar system. They are from other systems trying to get in and do the exact same thing. And at the same time, we are having the counter forces. You know the drill. I don't have to say it again. So we need to, those of us who have taken on that mission statement of being the first of many, we are having the worst job ever. And if we don't succeed, we don't succeed. And then it's all about, as you know, kind of from that stupid TV show again, The 100, which I thought might had something, but it just got sucked up to this whole kind of tribal, primitive behavior bullshit. I'm so tired of. When will they ever make a TV show where actually show human capacity, what we really should work with? In a way, I've here said, could I please, is there some movie maker out there where I could make a TV show where we could actually put all of this into potential virtual reality, make a movie of it, of how we can succeed and how we can work with this and how the sciences we could develop and try to make some kind of features of that? That would be so cool. That is actually something I would really like. But again, go into some kind of movie maker and say this, and then again, I can't even, but it's a really good idea. Anyways, so that's part of the collective. We are here to change the collective fields of DNA, the collective fields of consciousness, the collective fields of emotional fields, the collective fields of the mental fields, the collective fields of sciences, the collective fields of everything. We are here to engineer the planet, being able to carry that type of code system and energy fields and the biology so that we can recreate as much as possible the original human form inside this system. That's what we're here to do, no more, no less. You're not here to fall in love and brew kids. Some of you are, but we are here to do a very serious type of transformational work that demands so much of us that only the one that had the capacity to do so, that technically had the warrior template, volunteered to go back. And that's also when you do activate, you will be addressed as a warrior. And it will be a war of energy and consciousness and counter forces and chaos powers and everything you can think of from all levels of this reality that wants it to remain status quo or be sucked into the third cycle or be reconnected to the parallel universal matrix, and then they will take everything over. So it's not just the future that has problems. It's not just the past that ended up in shitty wars. We're not done yet. We're not done. So that's all I want to say, and end this 3-series podcast as a seeding in that one, working whenever the energies are there to pull in information from the 5th cycle. No easy solutions. I don't have them. You need to be part of inventing them. I can provide and have provided and have made the sciences to understand the original transformative energy system of this construction. I have made these classes. These are the whole transition sciences. I've also made the basic concepts. You can choose to do them or not. They are not necessarily important because all of the information that's there, I put later on into the whole transition science classes, but on a higher level. So if you want the basics, you do the basic concepts as in kind of, that's the foundation. But we continue working with that in the whole transition science classes. So you get the original energy system for this solar system. And then in the advanced clearing work, I teach what I know of the alien technologies and what you need to do to get rid of it. But if you can't see energy, if you can't see code systems, if you don't know how to do the proper clearing work, if you're still so distorted that you can't break into the density energies, you won't be able to see the alien technology. You won't be able to remove the energetic parasites. You won't be able to understand when you're being screwed around by all of the different levels of entities that are connected to our planet. And that comes to your personality structure, whether you are having the blinders on because you don't want to engage into this understanding for reasons and purposes, or because your entire childhood has been a reprogramming from where you think you're one of the only way you can change the world is through compassion and sitting still and meditation, for instance, when in the opposite is you're a fearful warrior that's supposed to instigate change. Or you have become one of these beautiful women that are assisting humanity through their continuation. All you think is important for you is to be a mother, and that's all beautiful. And that is definitely part of some of the future humans that will continue doing that for a period of time until the equation has been solved. And as they are working now with CRISPR and all sorts of things, they are going in that direction. We all know that. So that will be for a period of time, and that will be good and fine. And I'm not saying anything against that. But what I am saying is that if you're here to do something else, that is an effective way to take you out. Trust me, I know that from personal experience. It cost me 20 years of my mission. So that's also why I'm trying to catch up as much as I can now when I have gone back to just being me again and doing whatever I can, catching up on 20 years that were put into another project that was equally important and has been the best project of my life, but it was not what I came here to do. Or technically, what I was kept back in this physical form to become part of. Let me put it that way, because as I keep saying, I'm not here by my own free choice. But as always, now I'm here, so I'm doing what I can do, as I always have done, and as I did from the very beginning when I decided to be part of the project that were to align the humanoids with the original true worlds. That's how far back my original template structure goes. And that's not part of this system. But the genetics I have carry the memories of it and the code systems of it. So therefore I can tap into it. Anyways, just to sum it all up, as you can hear, I have concluded what I wanted to say, just giving it another push out there. But as always, I don't have the solutions. You do. It should be part of your mission statement template. So the question is, are you willing to do what it takes to activate that level of you so you know what to do? Or are you going to run around, just pretend that you're just like Brian down the street or Esther down the corner or whatever, and all that you're here to do is just to get connected and be on Instagram and eat meat and go to parties and drink alcohol and fornicate and be in beautiful relationships and what have you, which are for people that's their life. That's for the insectoids. That's what they are here to experience, and that's good and fine for them. But if you're from the 5th cycle, then that's not what you're here to do. So the question is, when are you ready to begin to do what you came here to do? Only you know that. Only you can cross the barrier, only you can do the extra, only you can jump the hoops and turn the loops and do whatever you need to do to get yourself activated. Only you. Each and one of us has our own timer and our own activation sequences, and only you can put it in motion. It's typically above your head somewhere. You need to create the right type of energies in your heart field and in your brain to be able to access the code level that technically will activate you correctly. Only you can instigate that process. Only you can begin to do what you need to do to self-activate. Only you can ask the correct question that will allow you to begin to self-activate. Nobody can teach you that. Only you know that. And how do you know that? How do you know what to activate with? Well, that's the good question. How did I get activated? I suddenly felt that enormous need to sit in meditation. I've been doing psychological work for 10 years and I got through many different layers of my energy system. I was very deep in meditation and exercise and turning my way around, eating correctly, and I got most of my life in check and all these kind of things. So I was ready to shift out of the base program. And I sat in meditation, and suddenly different number sequences came down. I felt that I needed to say out loud. And some of you will feel the need to say out weird words or whatever. Sometimes it is your activation sequence. Sometimes it's because you're getting ready to activate, and then the dark forces get to you before you can activate. And then they will have you say the dark sequences that will then activate you within their reality. So that's why it should never be said what you can and cannot do, but I will say it anyways. Be very much aware that the moment you're ready to lift up, the moment you're ready to activate, the other side will try to get to you first. The closer you are to get to your true potentials, the more sure you can be that everything that they have in their power to prevent you from doing so, they will. Whether it will be a simple thing as keeping your cat alive or staying with your partner or having to, I can't let go of meat or I can't let go of sex or whatever it is. Everything that's connected with the biological imperative and the general human population programs and whatever emotional weaknesses you have, they will use that to stop you from activating. Doesn't have to be a big craft over your house or some weird shitty things from the underworld. It can be as simple as that. So that's part of the challenge too. But if I get the occasion again at some other point where is the window of opportunity where the energies are allowed to come through and I can give you this information, I will of course continue these broadcastings. But there's also a chance that this is all I get to give and then it's shut down and I won't access this information for quite some time. And in the meantime, they will probably do whatever they can to take out this network of information that I've hereby seeded. And sometimes in the future, someone might listen to this. And instead of getting the higher level understanding of it, it will then have been pumped full of all sorts of negative code systems, which then instead activates something else that it was intended to. That's also part of the game. And the reason why I'm putting that in is because some of you I know are now going back and listening to some of the old information that's been given out there that will be given in the 2000s. Be very mindful. They do not link up to what they originally linked up to. They link up to something else now. This is not an easy activation process. This is not an easy transitioning process. This is not an easy activation cycle. This is probably one of the most difficult that we will ever encounter. Thank you.